Guys, if working on cars has taught me anything, it's that I always pick the worst freaking time to work on them. I got up extra early this morning. It's already probably 95 degrees out. It is just stupid hot today. I can barely breathe, so bear with me as I try to install this today. So here is the DCCD kit. This is the actual controller box itself. They source these from DCCDPro. Then they obviously supply all the connections to make everything work properly. So first things first, we're gonna open up our center console and remove this little liner here. You're gonna have 2 Phillips head or 10mm bolts, whichever you prefer. I have both of those out. Now you can lift up kind of on the back side here, but we're not done yet. We're gonna have to come up here and pull up on our e-brake cover and kind of pull that back. You're gonna expose another Phillips head right here. We're gonna go ahead and remove that. Now we should be able to lift up on this. Once that's removed, you should be able to remove this shifter cover fairly easy. And now pull up on this bad boy. Okay. So it is a tight squeeze, but I can actually pull up on this and then slide the box in there, but that'll save us from having to pull our radio out, which can be very difficult because there's 2 hard to reach 10mm bolts on the back side of the bracket. But what I am gonna do is pull this apart. Typically there's a bracket here with screws that holds this together. I'm missing that, but you'll take those screws out, pull this apart, and then we just have these 2 Phillips head screws here, and we can pull these sides off. I think we're gonna have to do that to get a little bit of extra room to get wiring through. That way we can see what we're doing. There is 1 plastic clip here at the bottom. Let me show you guys how I'm mounting this. I am just going to lift up on this little bracket and sort of push that back into place until that bracket comes back down. All right, it's pretty tight in there. It's not going anywhere. Now we have all these wires coming out of it. Okay, it's gonna look like we have a giant mess here right now, but I promise you this is all under control. We're about to make our first connection. This is pretty straightforward. We have this plug right here pulled off the DCCD controller, and this one is going to get plugged directly into our actual controller there. Both these connectors, we're just gonna plug them into each other. All right, we have made 1 connection. Now don't worry, we have a lot of extra wire here. We're gonna kind of tuck this down under the carpet. Now we have our little gyro box here. iwire, I love you guys, but this definitely should have came with some 3M tape or like a bracket to bolt it in or something. But anyways, I had some 3M tape laying around, so I didn't have to run out to the store or anything. I'm just gonna install this right here. So the next wire that we're gonna deal with is this one right here, which is going to be our plug for our display. This is kind of like a preference thing, because if you want your display to be right here in your dash or whatever, I'm gonna probably run it back up around these, up through here. Then we can run our cable. You guys will see, like, I'm literally just running the cable up like that. I'll zip tie it in there, and then right there's our connection. We'll bundle all this up there, zip tie it, and we'll probably put that light in here. So now you can see I have this wire ran back behind the dash. It's all tucked up underneath there. And then I have the little display right here. Now this is a very temporary solution. Okay, so we have this plug here, and the blue wire and that braided line are going to the engine bay through this grommet. I had to cut out a little piece of the insulation there to get to this rubber grommet. There's a brake line going through the top and the bottom, but that side opening is available. So I just stuck a Phillips head screwdriver through there and basically poked a hole in it, and then ran the wires through that hole that I poked in it. And then I can actually kind of take this insulation and push it back down in there, hopefully. See our blue wire right there now. It's kind of down in there a little bit, but you can see the blue wire. And then we have our other wires coming out there, the red, black, and white wires. So we're gonna just grab those and pull those out. There we go. I don't want to pull out more of this wire than I need because I don't want a bunch of clutter in the engine bay. So I'm going to stop right there. This blue wire I'm going to have to feed all the way over to the ECU. So I'm going to have to pull out as much as I possibly can. I'm going to just pull this, literally run this the whole way across and try to find, okay, that should be long enough to get to the ECU. Now the green is supposed to go to a ground. This is a metal bracket. There's already a ground there. That's where we'll wire this up, and then we will run our brown wire back to the e-brake. Okay, so down here, hopefully you can see this e-brake plug. We're just gonna pinch that and pull it off. Now we're gonna take our factory e-brake plug. We're gonna take our brown wire cable and plug that into the factory e-brake clip there. And then we're gonna plug this onto the ground piece there. That's done. We can basically tuck all of our brown wire away, put our dash back together, and move to the engine bay, get this thing finished up. The last plug that we have here, we're gonna have this little T-tap connector for the ECU wire that we're gonna get to in a second, and then we're gonna have this connector for our transmission plug. There is the plug that's on the transmission. I believe it's gonna go in like this. So what we have to do is line up our wires so we have a white, black, red. So we're gonna just slide these wires in there, going in order from white, black, red. Gonna run those pins through. So we have white, black, red. We're gonna slide this bad boy in there. Okay, there we go. You can see those 3 pins in there, hopefully. Now we're gonna take this little wedge piece here and slide it in like that. Clip that in place. So now we're gonna just plug it in. Looks like we did our wiring right. Just plug or just pull on the wires, make sure they don't come out. I do want to mention I already have the transmission plugs. If you guys don't already have that, you're gonna get that in this kit and you can plug that in. However, I already had that installed, which is where I'm plugging this in. So this will be its own wire harness. It'll get plugged into these 2 connectors, plugged into the transmission, and then this extra plug that doesn't get plugged in is where you're gonna plug your wire from the interior into the transmission. Gonna remove the ECU here. I'm just gonna run it the way iwire tells you to do it. Gonna loosen these 2 10 mils on top of the ECU. Just gonna lift that up from its little rubber grommets. Kind of pull this up. There's a blue plug, a brown plug, and a black one. You'll see the little color indicators on the actual connectors, and we're gonna loosen this up. I pushed that tab in there. There's a tab right there. You push that down. This swings down and disconnects. We have all this sheeting over the wires, and then we have them all zip tied here at the connector. All right, that should be enough room to get to what we need to get to. I'm just gonna have to cut that zip tie. I don't have a choice. Okay, so we got some freedom now. We can move some of these around. So essentially there's like a key there. You have to make sure it lines up. Every time you undo one, then the other side wants to come out. So I literally ended up prying this straight up. Sorry, I had to turn the camera off. It literally took me like 15 minutes to get this off. Now you can see that it's sliding. I literally took a knife and like pried this up, and it kind of pulled away from this clip, and I literally popped it off, but it still slides back on. Look how easy that slides on. And then I could just push and it'll clip in, but it would not come out. So it is what it is. Oh no, I have 3 blue wires. Okay, well I'm almost certain it's this one because the other ones are nowhere near it. Yeah, it's gotta be this one right here. So it is supposed to be pin number 17, but we are at row 3, and I believe it's supposed to be 5 in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it right there. This blue wire is our connector. So what we're gonna do now is take this wire tap. I do not like using these, but I don't really have an option here. I don't have pliers. I'm not at work, I don't have my tools, and I don't have pliers. I really miss my freaking garage. I miss having my tools at home. But I got it, as long as I actually have a connection. Sometimes these don't actually get a good solid connection. We'll see. Just gonna plug that in. Let's hope that it works and it stays reliable. Okay, that clipped right back on to the sides here. Line that up like that. There we go. All right, it's plugged in. I would clean up those wires, but I don't have electrical tape or anything to clean them up with. It's gonna have to sit the way it is for now. I'll come back to it at a later time. Okay guys, so it has actually been a few days since the install. Everything's good, everything's fine. I showed you exactly how to install this thing. Now I want to show you how I have everything set up. I want to talk about how it works a little bit and give you a quick little review as far as I've driven it so far. So I wanted to show you something. So the first thing I did on the inside, it's not so clean. I'll probably buy another coin box and redo this just to have it a little bit cleaner, but it's out of sight, out of mind. But what I did was I just basically took and cut out a hole for the LED and then plastic welded it in there, because this thing is very, very bright. Even in daytime, it's super bright. And so what I can do now is I can have my door shut, fire up the car, see it go through its sequences there, everything's good, and then I can tuck that away. So then I can go in here and I can make my adjustments to where I want them to be, set it back to auto, whatever I gotta do, and then I can pop that back up. All of my wires are neatly zip tied up under the dash as best as I can get them. None of them are hanging down or loose out and about. So you can see I have that, the piece that I cut of the insulation is pretty much just tucked back in where I cut it, and then all the wires are zip tied up, routed around as neatly as I can. And then they obviously go back through there. The whole dash is back together. There's nothing loose, no wires hanging out anywhere. Very, very clean install, and it was not hard at all. Now let me talk to you for a quick minute on how to use the DCCDPro. So when you first start the car up, it's always going to default to auto, just like your STI, and I know it's very hard to see the lights on there because of how bright it is, but right now you're seeing one blue bar and two green bars. And what's happening is the car is going to real-time change to whatever it thinks is the right thing to do. And that is going to work exactly the same as the stock STI would work. If you turn auto off, you can set this to full lock, which is all the way down. The very last red LED is going to be full lock. You can bring it back up and set it anywhere in between, all the way to full open, which is the last two green LEDs there. Now you may be asking yourself, well, what if I want to set it to auto plus or auto minus like I could on the STI? Well, that's very simple. If you want to set it to auto plus, you can come in here and even do one better than the factory STI. You can go in here, set it to auto plus. You can take it down as far as you want. You could put it all the way to full lock. I wouldn't recommend that, but you could put it down to, say, right here, and then press auto. Now your auto is going to automatically change, and it will not go any further past that plus point that you set. Or you could go minus and go further open and then set it to auto, and then it'll stay more auto minus. So that's a quick, easy way to adjust that. So if you want auto plus, you're going to go down, you know, maybe to these set of green bars or to your first set of orange bars, press auto, and that's going to be essentially like an auto plus. And then if you want auto minus, it's pretty much default to right here, so you're gonna bring it up and then hit auto again, and now you're in like auto minus. So pretty easy. So at full lock, this thing is going to lock all four wheels, spinning at the same rate with the same amount of power, 50-50 split front and rear, and it is going to be atrocious to drive on any kind of dry pavement and very dangerous. You don't want to do that. You want to use the full lock anytime you are, say, in a really gravelly area, you're on sand, you're on snow, and you're worried about getting stuck. That is a good time to lock up your differential. Any other time, you know, auto is probably going to be good for you. Auto plus is going to be just a little bit more front bias, so you're going to have, you know, a little bit better handling in wet conditions and stuff like that. You'll have less chance of the back end kind of trying to kick out on you. So auto minus is going to be a little bit better for, you know, driving on a track or trying to have, you know, spirited driving on back roads. You'll get a little bit more bias to the rear, and then you can kind of obviously set it anywhere in between. The auto is probably what I'll drive on most days. If I have to switch it up, at least that's available there. But I will tell you right now, just the little bit of driving I've done with this has already made a massive difference. The auto function seems to work great. Before, with the full open, I was getting a lot of wheel spin. Now with auto, I'm not really getting any wheel spin. Also, when it was wet outside with full open, which basically, if you don't have this controller and you have the STI swap, you are stuck to full open. and that's very unreliable. Your wheels can spin at different rates. There's all sorts of issues with that, and everyone says, oh, you don't need it, but you really should. And I pushed it off for way too long. I'm just glad that I have it done now. But basically, you'll have it in full open, and for me, it rains a lot here in Florida, and when I was driving around in any bit of light rain, my back end just felt like it wanted to kick out in full open. It was really weird. I'm not exactly sure why it was doing that, but now that I have this and I can set it to auto, I'm getting that much less. The car feels a lot more stable. The handling feels a little bit better. So it was definitely worth the investment. At least now I know I have it. I'm not putting any extra strain on the differential. I'm not putting any extra strain on the transmission or anything, and I know that it's just working the way it's supposed to work. Everything is good. The blue wire that I was worried about is working fine. I'm very sorry this video is getting a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I just wanted to incorporate this review. I thought it would be silly to have two separate videos. So if you guys have any questions about this, you could probably reach out to iWire and ask them, or you can leave it in the comments below and I'll answer anything that I do know. I can give you any advice or any quick questions that you have, or you can send me a DM on Instagram and I'll do my best to answer your questions. But I appreciate you guys watching the video. I'll give you some kind of update in the future. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.